So welcome, Sally. I'm really excited to finally see you, sort of almost face to face, and speak with you. Thanks so much for agreeing to be a speaker at the Why Perseverance Matters event that we're having on the 19th of November. Really appreciate it. I've handpicked really special speakers, yourself, Layla Bassi, and Jeffrey Williams, all with a tale to tell with regard to perseverance, but also people who really, like yourself, you really help people. You really help and support people around perseverance and so much more. So I've got a few questions for you, because I thought what would be really good is, we don't want to give the whole event away, but it would be really good for people to get to know you a bit and know what you're about and what's important to you. So does that sound okay?
That sounds lovely, thanks.
Yeah. So, you know, you've had a lot of experience, nearly 2 decades of practice.
Yes.
What kind of challenges do clients most frequently express? And how has that changed over the decades?
The clients have changed over the decade, but equally, I think the way I approach the work has changed over the time.
Right.
So when I began my therapeutic practice, I focused on weight loss work and working with women, mainly women, who had issues around emotional eating.
Okay.
So I was kind of focusing on the end result, that the excess weight that they were carrying was a manifestation of all of the challenges they had in their life. But as I did more and more work with them and on myself, I really discovered that these are key challenges that lots of people have, but they manifest in different ways. So they are all the same anxieties, they are the limiting beliefs, they are the self-sabotaging behavior. It just happens for emotional eaters that it will show up in weight loss or weight gain. But if you're someone else, it will show up in different ways. So I've kind of changed my approach.
Really interesting. And how did you get into this work?
How did I get into it? My first modality, the first thing I ever learned was physical massage, which was, so I did a 2-year course on massage. It's the greatest course. So I started doing massage work, and I specialized in women who were recovering from domestic violence or sexual abuse. So it became very clear very quickly when I was doing the work that when you're massaging women and they've never been touched with kindness before, it released all sorts of emotions and the floodgates would open. And I thought, oh my goodness, I really need a safe way of holding a space. So I thought I need to train. So that after that, I learned EFT. That's a weird American tapping thing, which is great and ties in really readily with massage, because you're touching them already, and it's easy to say, I'm just going to tap around your face, and we're just going to say, a few phrases. And the work kind of progressed from that organically with what I needed to learn.
So you at the kind of forefront of this stuff, really, because with thinking about 20 years ago, were people thinking about that kind of thing?
No, it's really interesting, because I used to Google emotional eating regularly over a period of years, and it never showed up. And of course now it's all over the net. And we ran the first workshops for women in my home. 6 to 8 women at a time would come. I was working with my colleague Liz Hogan, who's now based in Melbourne, Australia. And we would have these women in, and we would talk about their emotional drivers to overeating or for denying themselves food, because that's really, it's a spectrum thing. So anorexics that are at one end, and people who are carrying excess weight towards the morbidly obese are at the other end. It's the same, with just manifesting distress. So it was really groundbreaking and amazing work.
And are your clients all over? Because when you talk about it initially, immediately I more think about Americans and that sort of thing. I think more common there. But I, of course, not saying we don't have our challenges in the UK, but that's where I go to first. But are most of your clients UK based, or?
They're overseas. South Africa a lot, America and Canada.
Right. Okay.
And we do Zoom. And I'm also a hypnotherapist, but I don't tend to hypnotize people over Zoom or Skype, whatever the thing is, because, if you have a line failure, and that happens a lot in South Africa and stuff like that. So I'll customize and record an MP3 and send them that, which is great, because then I can drop in their own sayings, their own phraseology. I can use their name, and it becomes much more powerful than something you might just pick up off a shelf. Just download off the net. So I customize them.
I mean, I think it's increasingly becoming a problem in the UK, but I understand why your biggest client base would be abroad at the moment. Yeah,
it is at the moment.
Yeah. So is there a type of person who's more susceptible to these challenges? You talked about women, who've had domestic violence, for example, but is there a particular type of person?
I work more now with entrepreneurs and business people. That was, where I began 20 years ago. And the challenges are black and white thinkers, catastrophic thinkers, people with hidden and buried anxiety. They won't necessarily cope very well with challenges. They can mask those quite adequately for a lot of the time, or they'll succeed. I see people who succeed to a level of ability or level of success, and then they talk about, they've hit their ceiling. Yeah. They can't do any more. So with that, I've even worked with professional gamblers who gamble every day at casinos and places, and they hit a target of money that they want to make that day. And I'm thinking of a particular client in Florida, and whenever he hit his ceiling of winnings that day, he would do something to self-sabotage his behavior. Right. But you can kind of see that in business.
Yes,
all the way through.
Yeah, I've ended up.
It doesn't have to be as extreme as a gambler. No. And we were able to kind of go back in time and unpick what it was for him that made him innately kind of want to, or have an investment in limiting his own success or in failure. So it's really good to get rid of that one, because then he could just go on and thrive. So often people have something far back in their past that is just keeping them stuck. They'll go a long way forward through determination, through perseverance, through all the other attributes that they have, but they're going to come up to a place where they're not actually really, really fulfilling their full potential. And that's when I see them now.
Wow. Really interesting.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't have said you were going to say entrepreneurs and business people, actually, because I always think we're just resilient people who move forward. But of course, we have blockages and we get stuck. And often there's no one to turn to.
Sure.
Quite isolating. So you're absolutely right. Having someone like you could be so helpful.
Also, I can't guarantee that, shit won't happen, because it will. But it's how long you're on the floor for. It's the judgments you make about yourself when you are down or when something challenging happens to you. What is the voice in your head saying? And when I say that to people, they say, I don't have a voice in my head. But that's the voice in your head that determines whether you're going to say, come on, let's get back up there. Or the voice just says, nah, you were always a failure, or you were never meant to amount to anything. That voice tends to have been put into our minds really early in our life. When we were powerless in the crucible of our families. We didn't all have the best families. So it's really important to start checking in with that voice, finding out what that voice is saying to you, because it happens on a deeply subconscious level, just kind of below conscious awareness. And it's like a drip of toxic feed that makes you just feel kind of under the weather and a bit despondent about yourself. And the first trick about turning it round and changing it is to start noticing it.
Yeah.
So when you start noticing it, you can begin the work of interrupting it and eventually changing it into the cheerleader on your shoulder that you want it to be, and not the judge in your subconscious mind telling you that you're rubbish.
And the interesting thing is, it's not always that you don't even have the best parents. It's your interpretation of what's being said, isn't it? As a child, with your naivety and your innocence. And because often, you'll meet two people from the same family with the same parents who've said similar things to both of them. But one, might be the person who's really struggling, and the other person might be soaring. And so, it's just sometimes about how we're interpreting what's been said, our experience.
It's true. Some people get a role in a family. It's not kind of consciously given to them, but this role can be the scapegoat of the family. It's very rare that you have any more than one anorexic, for instance, in a family. But that anorexic's kind of, the person having those symptoms of anorexia, presenting with anorexia, can be scapegoated or made special. There'll be some secondary gain. So the majority of my work is about resistance to change and secondary gains. So with secondary gains, they can be really uncomfortable. Secondary gains don't have to be something pleasant in your life. But for instance, if you're heavily overweight and you can't go out, a secondary gain from that, or you're not dating because you don't feel attractive enough. The secondary gain from staying stuck like that is that you don't have to deal with the members of the opposite sex. You don't have to face failure or disappointment. So that's a secondary gain. But you actually pay a high price for those kind of secondary gains. Or if I make a lot of money and become really, really successful, who will I lose? No. Or if I become really, really healthy and really thrive, who will I let off the hook? Those are very powerful and toxic setups that need to be unpicked and got rid of.
So how easy is it to find these pain points then, these points in my life that maybe have created this situation that, you know, that I'm now find myself in?
Sure. It's tricky when you're in it. It's really tricky when you're in it. So to have that insight, what happens with people who are in a headlong dash to be successful or burying their emotions with food or alcohol or class A drugs is that what they're always doing is interrupting their intuition. They're blocking their intuition. And we all have it, but it's like a bit like a muscle. If you're not losing your if you're not using your intuition, you will lose it. And so life will become one big confusing mystery, and you won't know what to do for the best or what to do next. So what you can do to find your pain points is to really start building the link again to your intuition. If, for instance, you're a people pleaser that's always saying yes to everyone, train yourself when they're on the telephone to you or when they're sending you a message to say, can you do this? Can you make, do catering for 30 people tonight? And breathe, because what happens as well when we're stressed is our breathing goes down. Breathe and take a breath before you answer. Start interrupting your triggers so that you're not just behaving by rote, So that's something that you can do to start identifying your pain points. Your pain points might be you're a people pleaser. It might be that you're as scared of success as you are of failure. It might be any of those things around that. But your intuition is always your best friend. You've just not been listening to her for a long time.
Really interesting. There's a lot of synergy between the kind of work we do, as a coach, really helping people to listen to that inner voice, to be authentic in what they do. But obviously, you're right, we have to know who we are in order to be that person. And I think one of the things you said, I have a social enterprise that works with teenagers as well as other work I do. And I think teenagers, particularly the young teens, we work with 13 and 14-year-olds, that they are not always clear. They might be angry, but they don't remember what made them angry.
Oh,
and
for sure.
make that connection. So they'll lash out, but then it's not clear what they're lashing out about, and they don't remember either. So you can't even get to the bottom of it. And I hear what you're saying about getting to that point to understand what is it that was the problem, so we can sort that. So then we can move forward rather than people responding to your bad behavior and not understanding what's at the heart of it.
So young men in particular, the only emotion they're allowed in society is anger. So that becomes their go-to. But in therapeutic terms, we understand and acknowledge that anger only ever covers hurt and pain. So it's about creating a safe space enough for them to, unveil, peel back the layers of the onion and find the pain and hurt that is underneath the anger. Those are the real emotions that are just hidden and being masked by anger. So it's people's go-to. I see a lot of angry people.
It's terrible. I'm glad you're here to sort us all out. So just looking at sort of some of the questions I thought would be good. How can I, if I wanted to change how I feel and think about myself, how I think about myself and how I feel about myself, because there's a lot around self-esteem. You're talking about anger, but generally, if I think, about women, I do a lot of work with women specifically. A lot of it is about self-esteem. I need to look slimmer, smarter. I need to be more intelligent. I need to be this person in order to be successful. If I want to change that, how do I do that?
Perfectionism is such a trap for women, and we are bred and modeled to be that way from such an early age now. And there are more social pressures on women than ever before with the rise of social media, and comparing each other's lives and all of that stuff isn't helpful. So boundaries around our behavior, even boundaries around social media, it's been proven that if you spend, X amount of time on Instagram per day, you are likely to be more depressed.
Yeah.
But I did a recent 2-day workshop about compulsive shopping and how that momentarily makes you feel amazing. But after that click, then the shame and the regret clicks in. So those are external answers to how we're feeling internally. And one of the things that people can do to make themselves feel differently about themselves is to check and look at their boundaries. A lot of people have really unbounded behavior. They have unbounded behavior around technology in their home, around drinking, around sleep, around all of the things that work to make us feel saner and more in control of our lives. So checking your boundaries, reassessing your boundaries is a really good way to start. Plus also, you can timeline, which is a real, basic NLP technique. You can timeline when you're in your life, you felt more in control and happier and more centered, and work out what you were doing at that time compared to what you're doing now. And people find out I used to be in a choir. I used to go dancing. Oh, I was teetotal for 3 years. But they hadn't made the connection that those activities, or that being dry from alcohol, or staying off, class A drugs, which are massively disruptive and seem endemic these days with my client base. Staying away from those things made them saner, made them more able to deal with their life, made them happier. So look at your boundaries and look at what you used to do and readopt some of those strategies, reintroduce them, because they used to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a real solution focused technique, isn't it? Find out where it's working and do more of it, rather than going, having to get, it's the combination of also getting to the root of the problem already.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the next shiny thing. It might be something you used to do a long time back. And also, if that's your scenario, that you had things and strategies in place that used to work for you and that you're not doing them anymore, let yourself off the hook. Don't beat yourself up. People are really unkind to themselves more than anyone else. We would never allow anyone to speak to us as we speak to ourselves in the whole world. So start with some kindness to yourself. Let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. I think kindness all around would be
kindness.
Great for all of us. Yeah. So if someone isn't ready to come into therapy, what's the most crucial change that they can make for themselves? If I can't, I'm scared. I don't see myself sitting on the couch, or, all of my visions of what therapy is. What could what could we do for ourselves? Maybe a small thing.
There's a lot of great self-help books out there. There are where you can, because as a therapist, you only ever want to work with clients who are ready to change. And it's an investment, time, it's an investment in money. So, if they can come with more prep, if they've done some of their own work and say, actually, I've been reading this book about having a narcissistic mother and, it's my life, or I've been looking at codependency and I'm really recognizing this in myself. So they can unearth and be their own detectives, do some of their own detective work. And then when they're ready, if it feels that it's appropriate for them, they can come and do some real change work.
Fantastic. That's so helpful. So tell me, why did you want to get involved in this event, the Why Perseverance Matters event? What attracted you to being part of it?
I'm thrilled to be part of the Perseverance event. I have a duality about perseverance, in as much that perseverance on its own, although it's very noble to be kind of like, keep going, might be misplaced. So my rider is, we need to kill hope first, and then only persevere once we've killed hope, because hope is around sloppy thinking. It's not a great strategy for success. And resilience and perseverance can come in when we have a realistic appraisal of the situation. It doesn't have to be a negative appraisal. But with my work, I'm always wanting to enhance people's clarity, self-clarity. That's what we're aiming for. That's the outcome. And with perseverance, persevere where it's going to count, not persevere to beat yourself up, not persevere when it's a dying thing that you should be able to let go of. So with that comes really an appraisal, a good appraisal of the situation that you're in.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, I think you've heard a lot about Sally, got to know her a little bit. You know that what we're going to get on our event is pure quality, some real practical tips, and you know, a real evidence base in order to help us persevere. So, Sally, how can people get in touch with you if they want to?
So I'm Sally Baker. I'm based in London, but I see clients the world over via Zoom, and my website is workingonthebody.com. 4 little words all joined up, workingonthebody.com.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks so much for your time today. You'll see us, sorry about that.
No problem, no problem.
You'll see us on the 19th of November in NatWest in Islington. Do book quickly because the early birds are there at the moment and it will go up. Okay,
Great.
We'll be drinking a glass of Prosecco.
Yeah, cheers.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye.